Just want to give you a heads up that for tomorrow's lesson, we're going to have a hands-on activity, and for that, you're going to need 10 small things that are basically exactly the same. Ideally, they'll connect together. If we were in class, we'd be using these little interconnecting blocks. So if you have 10 Lego bricks that are the same size and color in your house, that'll work great. If you don't have that, really any 10 of any small object, if they can link together, that's better. But as long as you have 10 of them and they're about the same size, like you have 10 pennies, 10 paper clips, anything like that'll work. So get 10 of those, have them ready to go for tomorrow's lesson. All right, so let's go ahead and get into today's lesson. Over here. Today's lesson is called Matter Makes It All Up. And so let's get right into it. All right, so first thing, we need to go back to thinking about scale. We've been talking about this all year. We went in the first unit all the way up to giant scales of stars and galaxies in the universe. And then in the second unit, we went all the way down to the teeny tiny scales of atoms and molecules. So let's talk about what kind of scales we're thinking of when we are concerned about the ecosystem. So remember, our first task as ecologists working with natural resources rescue is to figure out why the jaguars and sloths are not growing and thriving in their project area. So today we're going to investigate this question: how do animals grow? So in order to figure out why the animals in our project area aren't growing, first we need to understand this more basic question, right? So if we don't know how animals grow, we can't really understand why they're not growing. So what we're going to do today is read a book called Matter Makes It All Up in order to begin figuring out how animals grow. So this book has a lot of information about things that are way too small to see. So before we read, let's think carefully about things that we can observe with our own eyes and things that are too small to see. So to do this, we're going to use the scale tool. This is available in every unit that we've done so far. It'll be the orange number 2 in our current ecosystem restoration unit. And I'm just going to go through this real quick recap of what in this scale tool is actually relevant to this unit. So this is the scale tool. It'll help us think about the sizes of things we can observe and of things that are too small to see. We start at the observable scale, or the scale that we can see. This box is 1 meter tall. We can tell the human is almost 2 boxes tall, or just under 2 meters. To the right are larger objects. The orca whale is almost 8 meters long. The redwood tree is more than 100 meters tall. A redwood tree and a whale are both parts of an ecosystem that are much larger than humans. If we scroll to the left, we can compare smaller objects. Each time the color of the background changes, it indicates we have zoomed to a different scale. Jellyfish is less than 1 meter long. Now we are at the scale of the human heart. This is a tiny breadcrumb. And this is the width of a human hair. The red blood cell is too small to see with our eyes. These images represent molecules. Molecules are too small to see even through most microscopes. When we scroll even further, we get to atoms, which are even tinier pieces that make up molecules. Thinking about atoms and molecules helped us understand matter and ecosystems. Atoms and molecules may be small, but they are very important. So if you want to go back and explore that and look at those different scales, feel free to open the scale tool on your own and play around with it anytime you want. When we read the book in the next activity, keep in mind what we observed about the size of molecules in the scale tool just now. So second activity is reading Matter Makes It All Up. So now we'll read the first half of the book, Matter Makes It All Up. We're not going to read the whole book, just the first half. To access the book, we're going to click on that 5th grade science bookmark and log into Amplify using our remote learning user ID. So to do that, the bookmark takes you to this website, apps.learning.amplify.com/elementary. You're going to click the Login to Amplify button, or Login with Amplify. Username is remote_learning@tryamplify.net, and the password is remote_learning2020. You're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom and click on the Ecosystem Restoration Unit, and the purple number 2 will give you access to the book Matter Makes It All Up. And there's also a Spanish version available if you would prefer that. So you're going to open up to page number 3, and we're going to read these first few pages together. I'm also going to post a video along with the lesson of a full read aloud for the whole book. That way, if you're having trouble with specific words, or if you just prefer to listen as you read along, you can do that as well. So as we read, we're going to be thinking about the question, how do animals grow? So we're going to go ahead and read these first couple pages together. So starting up at the top here on page 3, at first glance, an ecosystem may seem like a bunch of unrelated things that just happen to be in the same place. Different kinds of animals are running, swimming, and flying around. Plants are growing in various shapes and sizes. Besides all these living organisms, there are also non-living parts in the ecosystem, like rocks, water, and air. How are these parts connected? For example, think of some parts in a Florida swamp ecosystem. What do a rock, a cypress tree, an alligator, and a heron really have in common? So an ecologist is a scientist who studies ecosystems. To an ecologist, parts of an ecosystem have something very important in common. In fact, you could say that they are all the same deep down. All parts of an ecosystem are made of matter. Matter makes up the air, water, soil, rocks, animals, plants, and everything else. Matter is made up of tiny atoms that are too small to see. There are many different kinds of atoms, and these atoms can combine to form a huge number of different kinds of molecules. Individually, atoms and molecules are too small to see. However, billions and trillions of atoms and molecules together can make up a rock, a tree, a bird, or even an alligator. And the photo on the left here shows a few organisms in an Everglade swamp ecosystem. So on page 5, we saw that we didn't yet read anything about animals growing, but we did read an important idea that connects to what we observed back in the scale tool. It says that everything in an ecosystem is made of billions and trillions of atoms and molecules that are too small to see. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and read pages 6 through 11. And your job while you're doing that is to try to answer that question, how do animals grow? And what I'd like you to do is, as you're reading around, or as you're reading through, you're going to use the photos, diagrams, and captions to help you understand things. And you want to write down your ideas on paper as you read so you can look back at them later in the lesson, because we're going to need them for more than just this question you're answering right now on the Ed puzzle. And then once you're done reading, you're going to go ahead and answer this question on the next page. All right, so based on what you read, what is matter? So we saw this back in Unit 2, and matter is just the stuff that things are made of. So all the stuff, anything that takes up room and has mass to it, is matter. So it's the stuff that things are made of. And then we also learned already what matter is made of. So a molecule is a group of atoms that are joined together in a particular way. And molecules are tiny, tiny bits of matter that are too small to see. So molecules are made up of atoms, and all matter is made up of these molecules. So we're going to use this chart to keep track of our ideas about matter. I'm going to just draw this on the piece of paper behind me that we'll be able to see in just a second. So, fix that. Okay. So before we start writing on it, what are some of the things mentioned in the book that are made of matter? Okay, so to answer that question, you should have had a couple different things like maybe alligators, the bird, plant, fish. So we know that everything in an ecosystem is made of matter, including all the plants and animals. So we're going to add plants and animals to our matter chart. So we're going to have over here, we're going to have some plants. And I'm going to make mine a little flower. And we're going to have animals. And I'm going to draw a very bad picture of something that might be a dog or might be a cat, who knows? But it's an animal. Okay, so we've added plants and animals to our chart. We also know that matter is made up of billions of molecules that are grouped together. So let's add the word molecules and a drawing to represent a water molecule. So we know molecules are down here. I'm going to add a little drawing. This is our water molecule. And we also know, all right, so this drawing of a molecule is to remind us that this is the word molecule. However, like drawings, this isn't what molecules actually look like. Remember, this is just a model that we're drawing. So then atoms are even smaller than molecules, and all molecules are made up of atoms. So let's add the word atom and add a circle to represent an atom. And we're going to draw an arrow going up to the word molecules. We got our atom here, and so there we go. So we'll have this chart up behind us for the rest of the unit so we can refer back to it and add to it. And remember that a group of atoms joining together in a particular way are going to form a molecule. So based on what we read in Matter Makes It All Up, what can we say about all organisms? So what we should have gotten there is that all organisms are made of matter, and all matter is made up of molecules. So I'd like you to copy this key concept down to make sure everybody is able to read it and start synthesizing that, bringing it into your own mind. So everything is made of matter. Matter is made of molecules. I'd like you to write that down in the box over here and also in your paper notes. So our last activity for today is synthesizing ideas about how animals grow. So what you're going to do now is open the Google Doc that's attached to today's assignment, and we're going to use this page to synthesize information from the book we read. So first thing we're going to do is review the directions here. So up the top, it says, first, we want to reread pages 8, 9, 10, and 11 of Matter Makes It All Up and think about the question below. So the question is, how do animals grow? The one we've been trying to answer this whole lesson. So the second step says, record information in the boxes that could help answer the question. Connect ideas together to come up with a new understanding that answers the question. And number 4 is to record the new understanding in the box below the arrow. So let's talk about the information that we read that relates to the question, how do animals grow? We're going to think about how matter and molecules are related to animals growing. So we'll do the first one together as an example. So if you look back at the top of page 9 in Matter Makes It All Up, and if we read the second sentence says, since an animal is made of matter, when it grows, it needs to add more matter to its bones, muscles, and other parts. So it gives us important information about how animals grow. So in the table, we can write the sentence and the page number where we found it. So what I'm going to do in my version right now, and you can do in your own as well. Here we go. So we're going to so we found it on page 9. So we're going to write page 9 there. And then we're going to write the sentence itself. Since an animal is made of matter, when it grows, it needs to add more matter to its bones, muscles, and other parts. Great. So your first box should look just like mine does when you're done with it. And that is our first idea, our first piece of evidence for pages 8 through 11 that are just going to help us answer the question, how do animals grow? So what you're going to do now, after you've written that in, is search through those 4 pages in the book for more information about how animals grow, and record the information and the pages where you found it in your Google Doc. Okay, so once you're done with that, what I'd like to do is have you share out your responses with the rest of the class. So on Google Classroom, I'm posting a question that will pop up automatically at 10:30. You should not be, if you're starting on time at 10 o'clock, you should not be getting up to this part before 10:30. If you are, you're just skipping ahead and not really paying attention or reading the book as you should be. So the best response out of the 2 that you wrote, I want you to write the page number and your piece of evidence that you found, your piece of information that you found as a response to this question that pops up on Google Classroom at 10:30. And the question is, what information from the book did you record and where did you find it? So feel free to also respond to other people's information. But for the most part, we're just trying to get all your ideas out there as a whole class. So I should see a response for everybody from this. So when we're reading a science text, it can be very helpful to think about how different ideas in a book are connected. And this can help us to understand what we have read and connect it to science ideas that we're learning. So connecting different ideas together this way is called synthesizing. So we're now going to go ahead and synthesize those ideas about how animals grow into a new understanding. So in the new understanding box at the bottom of your document here, so you'll have these 3 full, and then you'll be going down to the bottom to enter this new understanding. So what is the new understanding do you have about how do animals grow? Once you've completed that in the Google Doc, you're going to come back here and you're going to tell me in this question off to the right, how did you come to this new understanding? So not just what is your new understanding, but how did you get there? What was your thought process in coming up with that? And then our final thing for today, other than one more vocabulary word, is to go back to Google Classroom. There's going to be another question automatically posted to 10:45. It'll be this one. So it says, how can we summarize our ideas about how animals grow in 1 or 2 sentences? We need to agree as a class, so comment on each other's answers on the Google question. So the questions getting posted under your week 9 assignments at 10:45 this morning is going to be this one, and I want you to answer it, and I also want you to respond to one other person's answer on there. It should be at least 1 or 2 complete sentences, and we're going to have to come to some sort of agreement as to what we want our whole explanation to be. So I'll take a look at those, and for tomorrow's lesson, I will put them together. All right, so once you've done that, we're just going to write down one more vocabulary word, and this is synthesize. So to synthesize means to put together multiple pieces of information in order to understand something. So we synthesize ideas from the book to come to a new understanding about how animals grow. Um, and this is a little more advanced, but in once you start learning a little more about chemistry and how atoms and molecules interact, synthesize actually in general means to take smaller things and put them together to make something bigger. So when a body is taking water molecules and sugar molecules that we're going to learn about later in the lesson and using to make something bigger, they're synthesizing it. So tomorrow's lesson, we're going to discover some more ideas about how animals grow. Make sure that for tomorrow's lesson, you have your 10 small objects. And I have these interconnecting blocks, but you can use Legos if you have those. You can use like 10 quarters, 10 pennies, as long as it's 10 things that are small, about the same size, and it helps if they can connect to each other. So I will see you all tomorrow. Make sure you submit this and the Google Doc on the Google Classroom assignment.